Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Briotix Health Spotlight, where we speak with providers, subject matter experts, and other key players in the field about the various aspects of worker wellness that are affecting you and your company today. Every March, we celebrate the work our amazing athletic trainers do to keep employees healthy and safe in the workplace. This year, the National Athletic Trainers Association chose the theme From Head to Toe as they celebrated, and we couldn't think of a more apt phrasing. Our athletic trainers are an essential part of the Briotix Health care cycle, helping employees navigate their care with ease and watching out for them from the moment they're hired till they retire. In this episode, we're going to be chatting about how an athletic trainer working in the traditional field might make the transition to industrial settings, along with some of the overlapping skill sets and benefits of the transition. We're joined by two team supervisors from Briotix Health who work directly with our industrial athletic trainers and have some personal experience with the transition to industrial athletic training. Tennille, Grega, and Richelle, Hammock. We're excited to have you both on the spotlight today. So before we get into our discussion about athletic training, could you both tell us how long you've been with Briotix Health and a little bit about what your current job role is?
Yeah, sure, Matt. Thanks for having us today. I have been with Briotix Health for about 5 years. I'm based out of the state of Virginia, and I've been an athletic trainer for probably about 20 years now. I'm aging myself a little, but that's okay. A little bit about me. I've spent about 7 years in the collegiate athletic training setting, about 8 years in the clinical setting with orthopedics, and I now have been 5 years in the industrial setting, and then moving up into the team supervisor position where I now have other ISMPs working with me to service those clients.
Yeah, I'm Richelle. I am based in South Florida. I've been with Briotix for almost 3 years. I too started in the collegiate setting as a head athletic trainer for about 6 or 7 years. And then when I had my son, I left that setting and stayed home for a little bit, thankfully. And then I was able to kind of get back into it. And I went to the outpatient PT clinic setting and did a lot of PRN work. And knew I wanted to get into the industrial setting. And so a part-time position opened up with Briotix, which is something we have a lot of. And it was a good opportunity to get my foot in the door, and learned a lot, and was fortunate enough to move into a full-time role and help out in a lot of our different service lines. I actually met Tennille with some of that work up in Virginia, came to visit her and do some poet testing. And then I've moved into the supervisor role, been here for about 1.5 years now, I think, and really enjoy, just like Tennille said, kind of supporting people that do the work out on the floor with those clients. And thankfully, I still get to kind of go out and help with some special services or transactional services here and there, which is nice. I really enjoy that part.
Richelle, you did a plug for our careers better than I think I ever could. I'd really love to dive into what got you both into the field. You said you both started in, collegiate athletic training. I'd love to dive into what were your motivations going into that, and how did you see that transition from collegiate athletic training into eventually industrial athletic training?
Yeah, absolutely. I can go first on this one. First, I am terrible at sports. I like sports, and I've always liked medicine, and so sports medicine was just kind of a perfect fit. When I was in high school, a lot of my friends were on sports teams, and in order for me to still be a part of that, I kind of started as a water girl and then learned how to tape an ankle, and throughout high school, that transitioned to being a student athletic trainer assistant throughout high school for pretty much every sport we had. And then in college, went in pre-med, and within about a semester realized I really should be in athletic training. And yeah, that's pretty much where it took off. I got an early start just because I'm terrible at sports.
My story is a little similar, but different as well. When I was in 6th grade, I actually fractured my arm, and I had 2 older brothers, so we were always getting into shenanigans. So I had surgery and ultimately ended up in physical therapy. So at that point, I just loved it. I knew that's kind of what I wanted to do and the path that I wanted to take. So when I got to college, I was actually a pre-physical therapy major, much like Richelle. I ended up switching to athletic training pretty quickly because I too absolutely love sports. It was just a good transition for me. And I really just liked having the rehabilitation part of it, but also, working with those sports in the athletic training setting. So it was kind of the best of both worlds for me.
So you both obviously have personal experience with that transition, and every day you're working with athletic trainers who are either making that transition or who have entered into industrial athletic training directly. So what do you see as supervisors as a common reason for candidates entering this field directly or from an athletic training background?
Yeah, for this, there's a lot of reasons why industrial athletic training is great. But one of the things that we really see here is just the hours in the schedule. It's much more conducive to kind of having a better balance for your personal and family life when you're working in industrial athletic training. So you're not working those crazy collegiate hours where, I had a 7 p.m. soccer game and then I was waking up for a 6 a.m. wrestling practice the next day. And so, that schedule is a little bit better. You're still using your skills and you're working, with the working athlete. And so it's still very fulfilling.
Yes, and I have transitioned my terminology these days to call it life-work balance instead of work-life balance, because I think that's what it's about, right? It's about our lives, and work is definitely a part of that, and we want it to be fun, but we want to also have a life outside of work. So I think that is definitely one of the biggest things. One of the things that really intrigued me when I was researching the industrial setting, and this is something that I've heard on interviews with candidates as well, is our terminology of the working athlete. It really clicked with me because, yes, athletes are very competitive and they're doing a lot of physical activity, but so are industrial workers. They're working really hard shifts and sometimes bad environments. And they, are lifting heavily. And so if we can help them out, it just really clicked for me, being able to help people, but still utilize my skill set.
With, that working athlete name, I think it's such an important draw for people when they're trying to understand that difference between traditional athletic training and industrial athletic training. What are some of those overlapping skill sets that providers are using every day from athletic training backgrounds? Because I think when people are thinking of industrial athletic training, they're thinking it's this wildly and vastly different field than traditional athletic training, where you're on a sports field. And while the locations may be different, what are some of those skill sets that are still happening between both?
Good question, Matt. I really feel like there's a lot of things that are the same. We talk about the things that are different too, but athletic trainers are typically really good at time management and problem solving. And just like being on the field and having to take care of, urgent issues and non-urgent issues, we have the same thing here in industrial athletic training. You're always using your problem solving skills to find the best solution, whether that be stretching or recommending equipment, but just really helping that working athlete with whatever they need on the job. So, that's really similar in that instance. It's the same thing. And then continuing to just like prioritize those injuries, those musculoskeletal injuries. You use that same mindset and education here in industrial athletic training.
Yeah, and for me, as an athletic trainer at the collegiate setting, my favorite part was always rehab and getting people back to playing. And I felt like I was good at kind of looking at the mechanics of what they were doing, whether it was throwing a baseball, kicking a soccer ball, and that can really translate into working in an industrial setting. It's probably not going to be kicking a ball, but maybe it's lifting a box 50 times throughout the day, or doing a pinch grip or something like that, and just learning to have the best mechanics so that they are preventing injury, just like getting somebody back on the field and you don't want them to be re-injured. Another thing that I think really translates is working with managers on site can be very similar to working with coaches, where you maybe have different goals in mind, different priorities in mind, but you really have to communicate and work together to find solutions and collaborate so that both of your goals are met for the benefit of the employee, but also for the client, for the company. And I really enjoy kind of some of those challenges. I've definitely worked with challenging coaches and challenging GMs. And so part of the job as a supervisor is coaching through those challenging conversations and being able to kind of relate it back to some of my team's past experiences and how did you handle this and how can we move forward in this scenario.
I mean, that sounds really wonderful, just being able to directly translate those skills from the field into any other setting and seeing that impact, I think, is really beneficial to anyone who's considering the changeover. What are some of the benefits of joining the growing field of industrial athletic training?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we did mention this earlier as far as life-work balance, I think is huge. Schedule flexibility is a big part of that, but it's also just nice. You know, maybe you're working 3 a.m. to 3 p.m., but then you have the afternoon off, or maybe you have a Wednesday off so that you can kind of get chores done or things like that. But I think the biggest thing and something I really love about Briotix specifically is there's a lot of growth opportunities. You can move into other roles, and it may not necessarily be a promotion or moving up, but even a lateral move. There's just more opportunity and more options over the life of your career than I kind of found in the traditional setting. You know, you can move into a project manager of ergonomics or over into office health ergonomics, return to work, management like a supervisor role. There's just a lot of different options and opportunities. To me, that is the biggest benefit.
You know, another big benefit of just joining the industrial athletic training setting and working in industrial sports medicine is just making those connections. Like Richelle mentioned earlier, you know, we're so used to in the traditional setting, like talking to coaches and other athletic trainers and ADs, and here it kind of you get to flourish a little bit more, right? And you get to learn more than what's outside of that box. So you know, you're talking to health and safety, you're talking to the general managers or maybe supervisors of that job, right? You're going in there and you're now, instead of learning just about, you know, what the fouls are in that sport and the body mechanics to that sport, you're now learning the body mechanics on the job and what exactly is needed. And I think that's a really, really cool part of industrial athletic training. I used to say all of the time when I was on site that it was like a day of that TV show, How It's Made, every single day. Every time it was something new, I was learning something new. And I always felt like by the end of the day, like, wow, that's a really cool job. And I can't believe that's how they make that. So it's just really rewarding in that way.
I don't know, Tennille, if I get to, experience how it's made every day at work, I think I might have to go into athletic training. Um, is there a favorite story that when you're thinking about over your career or the people you've worked with that really stands out to you as the impact that athletic trainers have in a client workplace or just on people's lives in the way that they interact with people, the way that they're in the workplace, their job, what they're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a favorite story from when I was a provider at my first client site. I had an employee who, outside of work, slipped and fell and tore her ACL. And I had worked with her a little bit in the past. She was always really tired and fatigued and, just kind of not loving her life. And this was something that really was very detrimental to her and really affected her mental health for a little bit. And we spoke and she told me what happened. And I said, well, listen, this is my bread and butter from my previous position, right? I had women's soccer. I'd worked with a ton of ACLs. And I just gave her some advice, right? Some simple stretching, some just simple range of motion. And I talked to her a lot about prehab and how that can be important. And understandably, her doctor didn't want to do physical therapy before surgery because saving visits for after, which is pretty common. But thankfully, she really took my advice to heart. And I saw her again probably 4 months later when she had come back after having surgery. And I was just blown away. She was in such a good mental space. And, she thanked me for giving her some push to let her know that this isn't just the end of the world. And she did the work and she really put a lot of effort into it. She lost weight. She was the healthiest she had been in probably 20 years. And to me, I still get chills just thinking about it because an injury like that for a middle-aged person can really be life-ending almost, right? Where they just become a recluse. And she turned it into working out at, a fitness center 5 days a week and becoming more active with her grandchildren and enjoying her job more. And that is just what it is about. And so that's really my go-to story that really impacts me.
I love that story, Richelle. That's so awesome to look back and just think like what we've done for these people. And it really is cool. I think some of my favorite stories always revolve around the people who don't want the help. Some people are a little timid, right? They don't know, what industrial sports medicine is. And when you come on site and they meet you, they may not believe you're really there to help them. But that's what we really do. So, just making those connections. I had, a person that I was working with, and he would just say, "No, I'm good. I'm good. I don't need your help. I'm fine." But I would just keep going up to him and asking him how he is, getting to learn a little bit about him. And then, next thing you know, he's telling me a little bit about his discomfort. By the end of it, I was helping everyone around him because he couldn't say enough about how much that I helped him. And that's really what it's about. Another guy, he had an ankle sprain, and his supervisor, sent him to me. And much like Richelle, we just love that stuff, right? So I was super happy to help him with that. But in our conversations, I really got to know him and found out he was working double shifts every day just to help pay for his granddaughter's hospital bills. His wife was splitting the time down between their granddaughter and then coming up. So a lot of times he was alone at home with no one to go home to. So talking to me just about like his regular life, I really feel like that really helped his mental health as well. So we're not always just doing, the musculoskeletal issues. A lot of it is just really getting to know that person and just helping their overall well-being.
Yeah, I really
Yeah,
like that, Tennille. Sorry, Matt.
totally fine.
I really like that aspect of it. Musculoskeletal discomfort is really our focus a lot of times. But I love that we get to talk a lot about just other benefits. Our clients are really great about letting us know what other benefits they offer to their employees. And one of our responsibilities is kind of encouraging the employees to use those benefits. And so sometimes they don't know they even have them, and it can really just be life-changing, and they're really grateful. And I think that being able to teach people to advocate for themselves, and focus on general health and wellness, and even, maybe there's a financial benefit or a parenting benefit that they don't know about, and helping them navigate situations that they've never been through before with health insurance. What number to call, little things like that maybe we take for granted that we understand that the, general population doesn't understand. I really appreciate that we get to kind of do that.
Yeah, and overall, athletic training in the industrial setting is so rewarding. We really kind of do it all. You would think that maybe in this setting, there's a misconception that we're just, going on the job and just helping them maybe with job coaching and body mechanics. And of course, that's a big part of what we do. But just like traditional athletic training, every day is different than the day before. And we've had people on my team specifically have had to do CPR and save lives. We had team members who have, had to do the Heimlich. We have team members who are, just helping with any aspect of that. So you never know what's going to come up, and you use all of your skills.
Yeah, I mean, just being a fly on the wall, these are always such wonderful stories to hear because you're seeing that direct impact, and it's just so nice to, understand that the work that, the people around you are doing is directly impacting and helping people's lives, helping them grow as individuals, as workers, in their position, and really giving them that kickstart to have the ability to do whatever they want to do in work and, do it safely. So I want to thank you both so much for joining us today. It was really wonderful hearing about your journeys, about the impact that you're having, the impact that the people you're working with are having in the workplace, and learn a little bit more about what it means to be an industrial athletic trainer. So thank you again so much, both of you, for joining us today on the Spotlight, and we would love to have you both again.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Happy
Matt.
National Athletic Training Month.
Happy National
Thank
Athletic
you. That
Training
was so
Month
much
all.
fun.